Yeah, back to the football stuff. I think one of my favorite, I don't know if it's actually Nick Saban, but something along the lines of average players want to be left alone, good players want to be coached, but great players want to be told the truth. And your best employees just want to know the truth. We are behind budget. It is going to rain tomorrow. We are going to have to work this weekend. And that's what we have to do. And the best people go, okay, well, I'll rise up to the challenge and I'll meet the challenge and we'll achieve what we still need to achieve despite the obstacles. So you wind up attracting, I think, the best team members when you communicate in that fashion.
Well, welcome to the show. Thank you guys for coming off of your busy job sites, taking a break from all those wonderful team members that you all hired and are managing, letting the customers kind of sit in the backyard, drink some iced tea while you guys come on and do this podcast to share your wisdom. Thank you all for coming.
Thank you for having us.
Perfect.
Thank you, Matt.
Thank you.
All right. And as we said in the intro, we got Tyler here. He's been a fraternity president and he was a $207,000 rookie manager. Maybe he is a fraternity president right now, and going for the all-time 33-year record in College Works painting, $500,000. We've never had an intern do $500,000, and we're looking for our first. Tyler, what is your definition of excellence?
My definition of excellence I actually got from a really good quote from Frank that really resonated with me. And I think it comes from Vince Lombardi, and he said, "No, gentlemen, we're going to relentlessly chase perfection, knowing all the while that it's not attainable. But while chasing perfections, we can achieve excellence." And so I've always kind of seen that as the definition of excellence is, every day chasing to, attain the best version of yourself, always looking to improve, knowing that there's no such thing as perfection, but kind of chasing that, along the way, you can solidify that you're going to get better every single day doing that.
Right on. That's a good one. Brad, we're going to call on you next. Player of college football, playing college football while starting a business. Now 2 years, 150 grand, double dipper while playing college. What is your definition of excellence there in Emporia, Kansas?
Well, I don't want to sound like I'm copying Tyler here, but I literally wrote down the pursuit of perfection on here. I think I was thinking of something similar. But yeah, like you said, I think that just chasing perfection every day. And I think it really just kind of comes down to the small details of things and trying to go the extra mile on just the little tiniest thing. That's kind of what separates, good from great. Really, I feel like that would be my definition.
Right on. And by the way, Tyler is from North Dakota. Brad is from Emporia, Kansas. We got Justin Bauer from Iowa. 120 grand last year, 150 grand this year. Justin, what is your definition of excellence?
My definition of excellence is you can't be perfect, so just chasing to be perfect. So whether that comes to being great at sales, great at marketing, great at production, just being the best you can at doing those things and just being well-rounded and good at everything.
So that's your excellence here at College Works. And last but not least, Drukey, as we call him, Brady Drukey, $239,000, his first time ever in business. Must have had like 6 employees, first time ever. And this year coming back again, 250 at least. Going to have even more employees. What's your definition of excellence?
Yeah. So I jotted down here. I think excellence means going beyond the reasonable expectations when doing something for others, no matter how minor the task is. So whether that's, a minor thing for a client, in the design consultation, going over extra details in production, power washing an extra, 2 hours to make sure it's perfectly clean or anything else like that. I think just always going beyond what the initial expectation was throughout every point, kind of in the steps of working with the client, is always just going to lead to an excellent final result, even if it feels like you're spending too much time on one thing at a time. And, if you consistently do that for others, I think it makes it a lot easier to be excellent when doing things for yourself.
Well, it could be beyond reasonable expectations when acting, period. Doesn't even need to be for others, for yourself, for others. How you do one thing's how you do everything. We got 3 out of 4 chasing perfection, not thinking that they'd ever get there, Sean, even though they are on a podcast with 2 examples of perfection. Sean being the perfect father and perfect family man, and me being perfectly crazy. They think that you can never get there, but they're going to keep relentlessly trying, paying attention to the small details, trying to get as close as possible. And then we cap it off with beyond expectations and everything you do. I love it. But we got to know, Sean, we got to know, what were these four dudes doing a couple years ago? So we'll go in reverse order. Drewkey, give us a quick synopsis. What were you doing to get ahead in high school? What was college like before you did this? You had to do something to get hired here.
Yeah. So in high school, played varsity football, varsity lacrosse, 3 out of the 4 years. Won 2 state championships in lacrosse, won a state championship in football. So it's pretty much always surrounded by very talented people. Definitely wasn't doing the majority of the work for myself, but kind of where the standard of doing big things came from. And my summers were just full of work, kind of like what the painters are currently doing now. So I was always out in the sun working all day, playing sports throughout that, and ended up at Michigan State because I didn't get into Michigan, which ended up being fine. And there wasn't much college life before this because I started as a freshman, jumped right into it, and college is about to be over. So we at least did a lot during the time at college, but not much other than that.
Okay. And what about you, Justin? What were you doing in high school, and what was college like before College Works? What were you doing to get ahead? What experiences were you having that were cool?
I was a 4-sport athlete in a small little school. We played 8-man football. We won a state championship in that. I was all-state football. I was all-state baseball for 2 years. So I was staying busy throughout the whole entire school year, and then during the summer, I also worked construction and plumbing. Since my dad's a plumber, I worked for him. And then, yeah, same boat. I was a freshman when I got recruited, so I have been doing nothing but college work since college.
All right. So sports, working your butt off, and then right as a freshman, you dive into this crazy business, which isn't supposed to work for freshmen, by the way, Sean. Freshmen are not supposed to succeed at this. What about you, Brad?
Yeah, pretty similar still. 3-sport athlete in high school. No state championships for me, though. My high school football team was pretty terrible. My junior year, we actually went 0-9, didn't win a single game. But yeah, went throughout high school, wasn't really anything spectacular in high school, I don't feel like. And then freshman year of college, went through that. And then my sophomore year, actually, playing football, I broke my foot and I had to be on a scooter, a little mobility scooter for a little while. And I had this class at the top of the business hall that I didn't really go to very often and a little hard to get to on the scooter. Skipped it every now and then. And then one day I was like, I might as well go. Showed up to class that day. Just so happened somebody was there doing a talk about this internship. They're looking for people. I was like, okay, well, I guess I'll sign up for this. Ended up just kind of, I really felt like it was like the universe threw this opportunity at me. And I was, I wasn't really, like I said, anything special beforehand, but I feel like I did have enough self-awareness to be like, wow, this is a pretty good opportunity. I really need to actually dive into this. So
don't tell me you were a freshman too.
No, I was a sophomore.
Okay. That's a cool story, Brad. And that's why Sean and I do this. You did amount to something before, but you hadn't had maybe the opportunity yet. And you are playing college football, so your team must not have been that bad. Tyler, what about you? What was life like in high school and pre-College Works College?
Yeah, I'm going to join the trend here. It's 4 for 4 on football players. And I think, those
5, I played football.
6 for 6, but
not
I credit a lot of the skills I've learned to this day. You learn a lot of that going through football and just any athletic in general. It's something as simple as, balancing that school and activities balance, hard work, dedication, kind of sacrificing little things. A lot of that came from kind of my high school experience playing football. I came up under, my Granite Eden Prairie program. And so, there's a standard kind of already set, and you knew that going into there. And throughout the program, you really started to kind of build and learn from that. And by the time you got to senior year, you were really a prime example of that, and kind of got the chance to pass that on to some younger players and then also carry that with you in life.
Were you doing jobs too?
Yeah, I was a kitchen manager. There's a kind of country called Lifetime, and I came into the kitchen, started cooking, took on a management role really early on. I think I was 17, 18 years old, maybe. Ended up doing that for a few summers, probably oversaw 8 to 10, different cooks and employees. So a lot of good management experience. I always kind of had that background.
So everybody here, all 6 of us, played multiple sports. and develop the team building skills. I like the standards you talked about, Tyler, some leadership experience as we got older in that. And every single one of us had tough jobs. Now, maybe not as tough as plumbing, but I washed some dishes and waited some tables and did all that stuff too. I didn't make it to manager. I kept getting fired, Tyler. I was not management potential. Sean got fired all the time from everything he did too. But that's pretty interesting. All 6 of us. Sean, you were going to say something.
Yeah, I wasn't actually ever fired, Matt, but
Yes, you were.
I love the Vince Lombardi and the football theme going on in this episode, and I'm a big Green Bay Packer fan, so shout out to Lombardi. Thanks, Tyler. So, but I want to know what you guys wanted to do for a career before you started working at CollegeWorks. So I know, Brad, you had a lot of family around you in the education background. Emporia is a big education school. We'll start with you. What did you think you wanted to do when you were just playing football and going to college?
Yeah, I mean, I really had no idea, honestly. I did want to be a teacher for a while, but then I don't know, I kind of branched away. Like you said, a lot of my teachers are parents. Let me back up. My parents are teachers. My grandparents are teachers, and that's what I thought I was going to do for a long time. And then I don't know, I found myself wanting to branch off from that. And when I got to college, originally, I still had no idea what I was going to do. I decided to major in business because I was like, I can probably find something in that, but I was pretty much undecided before I got to college.
Got it. So what attracted you to business? Like what was something about your personality? Was there a mentor, somebody that influenced that decision, or just by default you had to pick a major and you picked something?
Well, actually, when I was in like middle school and high school, I had my own like lawn mowing business. So I would drive all around Wichita mowing yards and doing this, that, and the other.
I did that too.
I just was, yeah, I don't know. I just was like, well, I've already been doing this. And I was kind of like, I want to make some money. I wasn't attracted to the teacher salary very much. And I was like, business is probably something I can do and be successful at and make a good amount of money. So that's kind of why I jumped into that.
Got it. So from education.
Brady, do you have a parent that was a teacher? No. Okay, my dad was a teacher too. Anybody else teacher parents or wanted to be a teacher? I wanted to be a teacher too. And that's what I do now. I'm a teacher. But I thought maybe we had another little thing in common there, Sean. I guess we don't. So back to Sean.
So Druki, what about you, man? What was your career interest? I think you were finance.
Yeah. So in finance right now, but pretty much all throughout high school, like the jobs I mentioned I was working, there's actually all working for my friends' service-based businesses that they started up. So one of my friends, they started a window washing business, another one a car detailing business, and I was always working for them, and I kind of got involved into a bit of the marketing or, reaching out to clients and setting stuff up for them. So pretty much right when I saw that they were doing it and that it worked and it was possible to do it at a young age, I kind of knew specifically the service-based business world is something that I wanted to go into. So thankfully, getting me to sign up for this job was pretty easy because it's pretty much exactly what I was envisioning. Wanted to do a long term, still decided to go to college to pursue further education, more of a hard skill that I could use when actually pursuing, a more large scale independent business for myself. So chose finance, but probably going to be sticking down the same route that I decided on in high school, which was running a service-based business.
That's cool.
Oh, yeah, I really similar. I had the lawn mowing stuff like Brad in high school and thought in college I want to go eventually run my own business, but I don't know what it's going to be. So I'll pick accounting because I need that like hard skill and I need something to fall back on. And I can always get a job if I needed to, but this internship obviously filled that experience bucket that I wanted in college. So what about you, Tyler? What were your career interests before CollegeWorks?
I wasn't too set on anything career-wise. Kind of my plan going through high school is always, pursue football at another level. And, through a few injuries and whatnot, kind of ultimately decided that, I was going to do that. And so I kind of followed my brother to NDSU, and that's kind of what brought me here. And I've really enjoyed the experience. Met a lot of good people, really enjoy the area. And then also it's kind of how I got into this internship too. Fargo was kind of a new territory that's kind of being brought back. And so never really had anything career-wise picked out, but now definitely kind of going through the internship and experience what it's like to run your own business. Definitely, leaning towards that avenue.
Got it. That's really cool. So you came in exploring, I don't know if this is what I want to do, but I'm going to see about business. Did you have a major declared yet?
Yeah, I was just a basic business administration major. Like I said, nothing really too specific I was thinking about, but I've always enjoyed business and kind of management leadership positions. And so, like I said, I really enjoyed kind of the experience so far.
Awesome. That's, I think, one of the keys to just any internship experience is get out and figure out what you want to do. I just talked to somebody this morning about on their podcast about how I did an internship as a freshman because I thought it was better to get experience earlier, not later, because I didn't know. Nobody around me told me to wait until my junior year to get an internship. So I thought, wouldn't you want to get the experience right away to make sure that like you really do want to be an accountant so you don't spend 4 years studying it? So love that you used an internship to clarify your career path. That's a great use. What about you, Justin?
Like I said, my dad, he owns his own plumbing business, and I knew that I wanted to work with my hands. I can't sit in an office all day. I would just lose my mind. So I knew I wanted to be outside. And I was actually looking for a landscaping business right as Carter, or no, it would have been, who would have recruited me? Anyway, whenever the recruiter came in, I was like, okay, I can paint. But then I do want to own my own landscaping business. So that is why I'm running this business, just to learn all the experience that I would need to know how to manage crews and, yeah, basically run a landscaping business.
Got it. So we've got a common thread going here. If people want to do an internship again in the future and or run a business, a service business again in the future, it sounds like a lot of you have an interest in that. So I think that's a great segue to why you chose to go after it another year, how you're making that second year count. What are you trying to accomplish in the second year and make it count? Let's go back to you, Justin.
Well, I would just say, so the first year you learn how to do everything. You're just learning. And then the second year is when you get to really take what you learned from the last year and just basically do everything better. So just make more money. You run crews more efficiently. You're more organized. And then you're managing the business rather than running the business, if that makes sense.
A lot of sense. Yeah. I think so many people are anxious to jump to that next skill and do the next thing and do the next thing. And they don't realize that it takes a little while to learn the thing. Now you've got the skill. Let's see what you can do when you just fully go to work with it. I think we're going to hear that a lot. So Tyler, what about you?
Yeah, I think, last year, especially being a second training intern, the biggest thing early on is just getting over that learning curve. You're kind of learning the whole sales process. And then once you think you finally got that down, then you got to go learn the whole production process. And by the time you get that down, summer's over. And so coming into this year, I just really saw, a great opportunity where I had a really great skill set, and this is, I had the platform to apply myself and really see some cool results. And so main reason I came back is just like I said, no learning curve. I know exactly what to do. Now it's just more so a sense of doing it and just focusing on as much output as possible. And so I think that's why, I'm able to do, the scale that I'm running it at this year, just because, like I said, learning it all last year. Now it's just kind of more so applying it.
Yeah. So what are some of the things you're doing this year to really scale your business from your first year?
Yeah, I think a big thing I learned early on that Mason really taught me is that, you have to focus more on running. You have to focus like on the business rather than in the business. And so, a lot of first year interns, it's a common theme where, they're on the job site a lot, trying to be very hands-on and, focus on the little details perfectly. Whereas like this year, my job is more so to kind of grow the business and scale it. And so it's much more beneficial for me to hire that out. And so, through my production managers, they take a lot of stress off my back. Same thing with all the painters, training them on very early that a sense that, they're going to be independent and they can't expect me to be on the cruise all summer with them. And so that allows me to kind of focus a little bit more on sales and dealing with a lot more clients versus last year where, you're kind of more so focused on being at the job site, trying to make sure everything goes nice and smoothly yourself.
Wow. Awesome.
I think what Justin was trying to say, Justin, let me see if this sounds better. Last year, you said run versus manage. Did you mean learn versus master?
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah.
Learn versus last year you're learning, and then as Tyler said, you get to the end and it's been 12 whole weeks and now it's over. So there's that commonality of coming back around to master and then scale is what I heard Tyler say.
I also really want to highlight what Justin said about I can't work in an office. We can tell.
Yeah, we can tell by this podcast that you cannot work in an office, and you can tell by this podcast that Sean and I both work in an office and we have gone crazy.
So Brady, you've done some unique things in your second year. You spent a lot of time with the recruiting side of the business. You helped train some interns and mentoring some other interns as well. So what's unique about your second year?
Yeah, I'd say coming into it, there was really like one goal, which was learn how to actually make money, not just like generate money. So, profit versus revenue. And I think it was such a big focus because it can be a really quick transition as an intern from just like sales to learn how to paint a house. And now, well, how do we become profitable with this? And I think a big part of that was just removing myself, from the job site, from being hands-on, similar to what Tyler was saying, and kind of look at the business from a bird's eye view. So I think, the main reason I did want to come back for a second year was just to learn the second half of, not only how do you learn how to do sales and, be a production manager and hire people, but how do you kind of combine all of those and focus on, the biggest end result of all businesses, which is to become profitable with it as much as possible. And I think it's given me a lot of new kind of sides of business to look into with the extra time I have without having to relearn all the other parts before it again, which has been pretty rewarding for me so far, and probably my favorite part of the year, just in the past few weeks.
It's really go ahead, Sean.
Which is that more organization, more systems? What's changed?
Yeah, I mean, organization is like the key word for all of it. And there's multiple different forms of organization. I think one overlooked one is the organization of like physical objects. So like the paint equipment, the stuff that you need from the paint store. It's like that shouldn't be stuff that I'm running around all day looking for or transporting. That's all stuff that I can easily hand off to my painters and give them an organization system for that stuff. And immediately, I no longer am driving around, the city all day. And, besides just the physical organization, it's the organization of just a schedule in general, which I think going from, the spring to the summer, the spring, it's just sales. It's pretty easy to keep a good calendar. And in the summer, you can make a calendar one day and all of a sudden it's completely flipped around when one thing happens. So, I think planning 2 weeks in advance, organizing my time much farther out is one side of it, physically being organized with the stuff that's happening on the job sites. And, that kind of just leads me to being much more mentally organized and actually have time to, think about myself at times as well, and not just be running around working the entire day.
I've got a buddy that every time I want to complain about something, I complain to him, and he always has the same comeback. And Sean and I had a pretty rough week a couple of weeks ago, and I call him and I list off, like, it's just unbelievable. 1,200 ladders don't show up for our production. 400 harnesses don't show up. We're getting triple billed on things. All these things are breaking, all this stuff. And I call him up and I get the same response every time. Sounds like an average Monday. That's what we all signed up for. So you learn not to have it stress you out. It's interesting though, all y'all, I'm going to use my son's word, y'all, are chasing down entrepreneurship. And you guys work in College Works. I'd say maybe 25%, maybe 30% are chasing down entrepreneurship. There's a lot of people that do want to go work in those accounting firms or do want to follow that finance path and go to investment banking or financial management or go on to engineering, that don't want to go down the entrepreneurial path. You all came wanting to be entrepreneurs and then use this experience to reinforce it. And I heard what you said. The second year, you're more organized. The second year, you're scaling and you're in a leadership. You were learning and run by the company, maybe, Justin, run by the company. Now you're mastering and managing. What's changed in your outlook into your distant future? You wanted to be an entrepreneur anyway. How is that different now that you're pulling in couple $100,000, a few $100,000 in your second year? You might end up to $750,000 that Tyler's produced in 2 years. How has it changed how you see entrepreneurship and how you see your role, your life 5 years from now? And we can go with, I guess I'll call on Brad first.
Yeah, I think the biggest thing for me that I've developed is just like a sense of confidence. I think that throughout every step that I've gone through with the internship is, hey, let's go knock on doors. I'm like, oh my God, I can't do that. And then I do it. And then, hey, let's do sales. I'm like, I can't do that. And I end up doing it. Hey, let's do production. Can't do that. And then I end up doing it. So I think I've just really learned a lot about myself and figured out that I really can, if I do want to do something, I can put my mind to it. And, with like proper training and stuff like that, anybody can really do anything they want to do. But yeah, overall, I would just say I've developed a bigger sense of confidence in myself and all that good stuff.
It is baffling. It's unbelievable. You're just going to go out, knock on a couple doors, get a few people to let you do a bid, book a couple jobs, hire a few people, organize them in something you've never done before, deal with people 3 times your age, and it's all open and shut in 25 weeks or something. It's crazy. But longer term, Brad, 5 years, 10 years from now, and you said mostly you're taking the confidence out of doing this twice and all the little aspects of business, running it twice. What's the difference in where you see yourself in 2035 now versus before?
I mean, well, to be completely honest with you, Matt, I really have no idea. I'm still not entirely sure what I'm gonna be doing after I graduate from college. But kind of like I said, I am more confident that, hey, if I want to go run my own business, I can just go run my own business. If I want to go apply for, this job, I kind of figured, hey, 2 years running a business while playing football looks better on a resume than 1 year. So I might as well come back for a second year and all
Don't
that
go
good
backwards,
stuff.
by the way. Don't go backwards. You got to keep going up.
Yeah. But I mean, yeah, just to be completely honest with you, I'm not really sure where I see myself in the next 5 years, but as long as it's happy and healthy, that'll be good enough.
And it's important that you don't pigeonhole yourself. I call it the pre-life crisis. It happened to me like junior year. Some people it happens senior year, and you start freaking out. What am I going to do? School's ending. Oh my God, I got to figure it out. And then it's like the same as when you're applying to college. All the people are pestering you. What are you going to do? What are you doing next? It's the only question you get, and people are sizing you up. So I don't want to pigeonhole people, and I don't want to advance the pre-life crisis. Doesn't really matter. You just need to know what you want to do next year, and it'll all fall into place, especially if you're kicking ass like you guys are. There's always opportunities for people that kick ass. Tyler, what about you? What's changed? And you kind of wanted to be an entrepreneur. You kind of reinforced entrepreneurship over the last couple of years. What's changed in your outlook, looking at yourself 5 years out, 10 years out now versus pre-running this massive company you're running?
Yeah, I think the main thing to me that I've kind of learned is, that a true business is more so a system than a company. And, if it's not sellable, it's not really a business. And so, kind of when I look for my next step in life, it's definitely building a system where, I have that ability to really build it up. And, when I feel the time is ready, to kind of be able to sell that and, go next from there. I don't really want to build a company where, it's based around me and it needs me to run. I don't really see that as a company. That's kind of more of a job. And so I'm definitely going to focus on building like something like system wise for a business, and then probably look to sell that in the next 10, 15 years.
So last year you had a production system probably, but sales and marketing was on you. This year you added in the marketing system, refined your sales. You have your same production system, but larger with more leaders helping you produce the work. And you're just going to keep spinning that up for the next 5 years until it sells.
Yeah.
Perfect. Good for you. What about you, Brady?
Yeah, I think just the biggest thing in terms of like outlook about entrepreneurship is very similar to what Tyler said. And, before I pictured it would be me working very hard, on a business myself and putting in long hours for it. But I think especially like, more recently this year, realizing that it always will take a team to do something, exceptional, and realizing that a team is not really going to function unless it has a dedicated leader whose only role is to lead the team. So I think, even last year, I kind of just saw myself as a member of that team and was kind of working along with everyone else, sometimes doing similar roles. And this year, kind of realizing if I am going to go into entrepreneurship, my goal should be learning how to be a good leader and learning how to make, others want to work hard towards the goal that I want. Not as much as, me wanting to, work hard to do it myself, which ends up never having enough time or energy to accomplish.
And there are people that have that entrepreneur business that's just a job that Tyler talks about. And there are people, and that's fine. And there's people that are craftsmen that don't want to deal with the management leadership side and just want to make whatever they're making. And that's good. You guys, you both decided I'd like to scale it. And I like that. That's my favorite part, the levers and all the different people and try to communicate to all these different people and try to get everybody on the same page. It's I mean, I hate puzzles, but that puzzle and that challenge is so exciting. Justin, you got your dad's business as an example. You've even worked there. You want to get into a landscaping business, which Brady worked for people that were really, really young that had landscaping businesses. Many of us on this call had our own landscaping business if we didn't work for one. How's your outlook changed after doing this?
Yeah, so my outlook has changed a little bit just because I have like the foundation of what it is like to run a business. I don't like know before this I didn't know what it would take to run a business, but now I mean you have that. I mean we've all ran decent sized companies. And if you do that by yourself without the college works name per se, you can make a lot of money and you can deal with a lot of clients. And I guess I have that foundation that I'm going to take with me to scale my business as well.
You think you're going to have more employees now that you've tried this out than you would have if you didn't try it out?
Yes, because I always thought like my dad, he was like a 3-man crew for the longest time, and then he started scaling. But if I can start scaling sooner than he did, then I could be more successful than he is. So a little competition, you know.
Right on. And I'll just ask this to all four of you before I kick it back to Sean. Has AI changed any of your outlook?
I'll say a little bit. I mean, there's definitely certain jobs and positions that, AI will definitely start to kind of take over, but there's also a lot of, things more so service-based that, AI won't replace, such as kind of like things that we're doing. And so, I think we're all pretty similar path in terms of sticking with that service-based. I think, the AI is more so kind of with like the back end of the business, kind of like the, accounting and managing the books and all the, software kind of IT jobs like that, more so not really the kind of entrepreneur and front end things.
Everybody else agree with that? You guys are in the relationship business, so you're not so worried about it. More going to be a tool for you, make your marketing easier. Don't have to knock on so many doors. All right, Sean.
What's been your guys' best lesson? Like, what are the things that you learned through the sales, through the management, the time management, and everything we've been talking about? For me, I know time management was a huge lesson, and being effective and not just doing a lot all day, but getting things done. And so I want to curious from you guys what lessons you've taken away. So Tyler, let's start with you.
Yeah, I'd say the biggest lesson I've learned is, nothing that's ever worthwhile doing is going to be easy. And especially at the start, more specifically business wise, you're paying all the painters right away. You got to cover your materials, overhead costs. And so, you're never going to see those results right away. But being disciplined and, staying consistent and, continuously, pushing every day to keep focusing on the business, those results will eventually come. And so I think that's definitely learned like a big thing this year is, kind of understanding the patience game and understanding that, you're not really going to see those results right away, but being okay with that, knowing that, you consistently put in the time and the effort, trusting that, the results will follow.
How do you do that? Have you planned it out, budgeted it out, and seeing, well, if I do X, Y, and Z, Y, A, B, C is going to happen?
Yeah, obviously you can budget everything out and kind of get a projection going for, what your profit's going to look like, how much you're going to make, what you have to do each week. But end of the day, the main thing that matters is, you going out there and actually doing it, focusing on doing as much output as you can. The harder you work, the luckier you're going to get. And so, nothing is ever going to be more beneficial than, you getting hands-on and actually doing it. You can talk about it, you can plan for it, none of it's going to be as beneficial as actually going out and doing it.
All right. Druki, what's been the biggest lesson for you?
I would say biggest lesson, probably business lesson / life lesson is, with interacting, with others, whether it's clients or employees that are working under you, things are only going to go smooth if you guys have a good, genuine relationship where you guys can both be honest with each other. And I think especially in sales this year, that was a big thing, is going to an estimate. I really wasn't worried about booking a job on the spot. I was worried about leaving a really good impression and, learning from another person and, seeing if we can both work something out that's going to be beneficial for them in the long run. And a lot of the times I'd leave those estimates feeling really good, even though I didn't book a job on the spot, and having a pretty high hope that I'd be getting a call back from them. And this year that kind of happened to be the case, with over 50% of my revenue being from callbacks. And I feel like I'm having the same kind of thing with my painters this year, where it just starts with a good relationship from the first Zoom interview and getting to know each other and being honest. And things tend to just fall into place from there for the most part.
Phil, can I ask a follow-up to that? Does that mean that you had some stings your first time in business where you may have not told people the bad news that they wanted to hear as customers, and you didn't set their expectations right and it led to problems, and you decided, okay, with customers, I'm going to be honest and straightforward? Is that what you mean by that?
That's one half of it. Yeah. On the production side of it is
it the same with the painters too? You learn to be more honest and straightforward and direct with your team, and you're getting better results and better relationship for it?
Tends to work out like that. Yeah.
That's cool to hear.
Yeah, back to the football stuff. I think one of my favorite, I don't know if it's actually Nick Saban, but something along the lines of average players want to be left alone. Good players want to be coached, but great players want to be told the truth. And your best employees just want to know the truth. We are behind budget. It is going to rain tomorrow. We are going to have to work this weekend. And that's what we have to do. And the best people go, okay, well, I'll rise up to the challenge and I'll meet the challenge and we'll achieve what we still need to achieve despite the obstacles. So you wind up attracting, I think, the best team members when you communicate in that fashion. What about you, Brad? Big lesson.
I think the biggest lesson I've learned is that the easiest way to, or especially like for sales, people buy, things, services, products from people that they trust and brands that they trust. And I think that's the big thing that I had to learn was you can't just go in, to an estimate or anything like that and just, be straight business. You got to develop a sense of trust with somebody, spend at least 30 minutes just talking about random nonsense just to develop a relationship with somebody kind of similar to what Brady talked about. But I think that is one of the biggest lessons I've learned is that just developing a sense of trust with people and employees as well just makes things go a lot more.
Did you get burned too?
I had a little similar to that last year.
Little bit.
A little bit. So the trust, you want to have, you're always trying to make little deposits into the trust account so that if you ever did need to take a draw out of that account, there's a balance there, right? If the account's at zero, the trust account can't ever go negative. What about you, Justin?
The biggest lesson that I've learned is time management for sure. There's so many things that you have to do in a day. If you write them all down and you make like a little checklist and then you can get them all done. Like you said, it's not about just doing things all day, but actually getting things done. That is one of the biggest things that I've learned.
Yeah. First time round, was it take 10,000 hours to be an expert? So you guys probably put in 1,000 hours the first time round. And there's a major difference between being effective and being busy. So this year, you're probably working less hours. I mean, are you guys working less hours than you did last year? Yeah, you don't have the learning curve. You're more effective. And you need that refreshing. You need to be able to go to sleep at night and recharge. You need to be able to take some time off and go to the lake or something and recharge to stay at that peak performance, which you probably learned in football. But there are people right now, by the way, this is coming out June 9th. So June 9th is the air date of this. People just launched. They're launching their second cruise. They're absolutely not in the mindset of ever coming back to this business. They hate Sean. They still like me, but they hate Sean right now. What advice do you have to anyone that might actually be considering doing this crazy job one more year? And why don't we go with you first, Brad?
I would just say kind of what I talked about earlier, 2 years of doing it looks a lot better than 1 year. But also, I don't know what percentage of people end up coming back for a second year, but it's one of those things that to be good, you can do it good for 1 year. But to really be great, I mean, consistency is greatness, I think, in my opinion, and to be able to be successful for 1, 2, maybe even 3 years in a row, I think that says a lot more than just doing it once. So that was kind of one of the biggest reasons I wanted to come back.
What about you, Justin?
I would say do it again. The hard part's over. You learn how to do everything. Now you just have to go and you just do it all again, except you already know what you're doing. So it's a lot easier the second time around.
What about you, Brady?
Yeah, I would agree that it is a lot easier the second time around. And I think the big thing that the interns should hear is that, you can never learn everything from running a branch at College Works in one summer. I think especially during the production season. So, I think it's pretty easy to pick something that, didn't go perfectly during your summer. And maybe, you leave your first year with a bit of a bad, taste in your mouth about a certain part of the year where, you just really didn't perform well. And I think if you kind of have that feeling at the end of the year, just knowing that it's, very, very simple to focus on that one thing. For me, it was profitability and organization. And, if you can keep that goal in mind, starting over your second year, it is very, very possible to fix the, mistakes and the bottlenecks that you faced in your first year. And you can always kind of bounce back from it and really kind of feel satisfied in what you're doing, even if it's not something, super different from before.
All right. And Tyler, just to reiterate, on tape, I saw Tyler at a training in, I think it was Minneapolis. Is that where it would have been? At a training in Minneapolis. He was standing in the back of the room. He said something to me like, I'm going to do 400. Tell me where I'm off on this one. I'm going to do 400 grand this year. And I said something like, you could do 500. I really want you to do 500. And then I threw this $25,000 bounty at him, which he thought I forgot. I never forget. I never forget bounties. Did I have that all right?
Yeah, for the most part.
Do you
I think
remember, was your goal really 400 grand?
Yeah, it really was. And
Did the bounty help you raise it?
it did a bit, but I think, ultimately, when I decided to come back, I just kind of looked at that all-time revenue record. And, a lot of times, people are always quick to say, oh, why me? Why am I capable of this? And I said, kind of flipped that. And I said, well, why not me?
Well, yeah.
I have the mindset. I have the skill set. I know exactly what I need to do. I know how to do it. I just have to go out there and apply it. And so, kind of coming back, that's why I put, that $400,000 goal out there. And then, things started kind of getting running. And, that's when I really started to focus on, doing as much output as I could and started hiring some more people. And that's when things really started ramping up, and then kind of changed the budget to 500,000. And then, it's kind of just gone by so fast that I haven't really had time to, settle in yet. To me right now, it doesn't feel much different than what I did last year, especially now in terms of production and kind of managing all the crews and whatnot. If I had to be honest, I'd probably say it's been easier this year than last year, even though I'm doing, 2.5 times the revenue, and I've almost tripled the amount of employees. So I'd say if you're thinking about coming back, definitely do it, just because you have that platform, you have the skill set. Now it's just really about going out and applying and giving your best to kind of, see what results you're really capable of.
I think that's probably a mantra that everybody on this call, why not me? And that's such an important mind shift. There are people that come in and a lot of people, why me? I don't think they have this imposter syndrome that Tyler's talking about. And if you can leave with why not me, like an arrogance, that's what I want. That's what Sean wants. And I'll close my thoughts, Sean. I don't have any more questions you might, but if you look at this group of people, most people are listening. I know you're listening, so you can't look. We do put this out on different YouTube channels, different formats in YouTube. But if you look around or listen around, what character these people have. And you heard team focused, relentless pursuit of perfection, people lifters, giving, sharing. I mean, they came on the podcast just to share their wisdom. You can tell what their values are, the hard work, the patience, the standards we heard Tyler talk about. What a wonderful group of people, and anybody would be lucky to have you on their team. Thank you for so much for making a few extra years and staying on our team. Sean, what final words do you have?
I got one more for the group, and that's, you guys are the type of people who are going to do great things in the future. I want to give you a chance to put something out into the universe of, you're going to be back on the show. So either in 3 years or 5 years or 10 years, you're either going to be back on the show as a VP at CollegeWorks, or running a new business that we haven't even thought of yet, that we start and let you guys try and run, or you're going to start your own business. So in 5 to 10 years, when you're back on the show, what are you going to have accomplished in the next, 3, 5, 10 years? What do you want to be able to tell the group? So Justin, we can start with you. I'll let you go last, Tyler.
Okay, so what was the question? Sorry.
Where you're going to be in 3, 5, 10 years. We're going to put this out of the universe of what you're going to accomplish in the next decade. And why are we having you back on the show then?
Okay. So in the next 3 to 5 years, I will have my own landscaping business with probably twice as many crews that I have now, and just being more of a manager rather than always working all the time. And then, yeah.
Fastest growing landscaping business in Iowa. Look out, landscaping business owners in Iowa, because Justin's coming for you, and you better get ahead before they need a head start. You're going to catch up fast. So what about you, Brad?
I think in 3, 5, 10 years, I just honestly just see myself being successful, doing whatever I want to do. And like I said, not really too sure as of right now. I know that's kind of not a very good answer, but I guess like I said, I fell into this by chance. Hopefully I'll fall into something else by chance. And I believe that if I put myself to it, I can be successful doing whatever I want to do.
That's what keeps happening to Sean and I.
It's one more year.
Yeah.
We'll see how it goes. What about you, Brady?
Yeah, I think that I would want to be in a place where on paper or to others, it looks like I must be working, 70 hours a week, with having a lot of success and running, service-based business, which again, I'm not really sure what it's going to be. But while doing that, I want to be actually loving life, being healthy, having a family, traveling, and not really having to worry about it. Financials are working super hard, and that I think that's going to kind of start with becoming the best leader that I can and growing a really good team of people that I can rely on and that can take the time off my hands so that I can kind of live my life to the fullest and really be happy.
So he's going to be the relationship guru. He's going to teach us about the relationships he builds with his clients and his team to have the happiest, most fulfilling, successful business owner life possible. Love it. And Tyler, when you're back on the show, what are we talking about next time?
Well, I'm hoping 3 to 5 years by now, I'm hoping there'll be a new record breaker. Just kind of setting that new standard and showing them what's a little bit more attainable. And then 10 years from now, we'll see hopefully a $10 million exit, sell the business by then, at least 8 figures, put it there.
Okay.
There we go.
There we go. There we go.
Well, I love the Roger Bannister mindset. He's going to run the 4-minute mile and everybody else will do it after that.
Yep. And it works. It works. As soon as somebody sets a record, everybody starts chasing that record. That's why it's so important that you guys crushed it this year and set the bar for all these other people. So thank you again for all your hard work. Thank you for your dedication. Thanks for bringing your values to our business. And anybody would be lucky to be a business partner to you all, to be your banker, to be one of the vendors like the accounting firm or the law firm or whatever other firms you use. Anybody would be lucky to have you. Thank you for making time. Thank you for coming on The Edge of Excellence.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.